Hi, I'm Lori. This is Books, Ink, and Paper, and I am going to attempt to film and upload this video. I had some trouble yesterday with another video that should have gone before this one, technically. It's just not gonna now. So let's just say that one is gonna have to be redone. So today's video, because some other videos I'm making hinge on it, is my 2020 reading goals. I will be posting a video about my 2019 reading goals and how I did, but not before this one because it just didn't work out that way. So I've really been thinking about this for about a month and a half, almost 2 months. I really wanted to put some time and effort into creating some meaningful, mindful goals. As I said, that's kind of my one little word for the year is fervent, but my way of being this year that I want to improve is my way of being mindful and intentional and really create something that is meaningful and sticks much more than what happened last year, which is everything just flew by. And I think that happened for a lot of people. So it's probably a result of sort of our way of being in the end of the decade, or I don't know. It's hard to say, but it's a theme that I've heard from other people in my life. So I'm not the only person that feels like I was a little out of presence last year. So this year, in an effort to be more present and to make more intentional choices, I have created a list of goals that I am pretty happy with and that really seem to have exhausted everything that I want to consider this year. So here we go. So let's start with my Goodreads goal. Last year, my Goodreads goal was 40 books. I then upped it when I got to 40 pretty soon. I think by July or August, I was at 40. So I upped it to 50 and I ended up reading 61. So you would think that I would think, oh, I could read 50 or 60 this year. And I could, clearly. So that's not why I've decided to back it down to 40. Why I've decided to back it down to 40 is there's a lot of big books that I really want to finish this year. Big in page count for sure, and in my need to stay present with them. So my TBRs might not always be as robust if I'm going to be reading, for example, trying to finish The Stand is one that I'd like to complete. The Outlander series is on my list to reread with a friend of mine who's created a group, and we're kind of pacing ourselves for the year to get through those volumes, which is something I talked about last year. Greg Iles or two I have been considering, and those are pretty big. I did talk about big books that I like and that I really wanted to get to, and I feel like if I don't make room and space for them in my life, then they won't get read. And I will just choose shorter, smaller books as I did last year, or books that were 350 to 450 pages and were very suspenseful. So I flew through them. And in some cases, I don't even really remember what they were about. That's true for some of the readathon books too. So I want to be more, I want to savor those 40 books. And if there are more than 40, that's great. And if there are less than 40, that's okay too. There are many years in the past I didn't meet my reading goals, and I used to feel bad about it, but I don't think I'll feel bad about it this year. Number 2, I really want to get to my backlist. I have a lot of unread books on my shelves. I am purging some of them this year for sure. And I have a lot that I really want to get to and haven't. And I have a feeling about myself sometimes when I look at the number of books I haven't read. My Goodreads backlist is pretty long, so that makes me a little uncomfortable, to be honest, because there are so many books on my Goodreads list that I haven't gotten to. It looks like I've been on Goodreads since about December of 2011. I have 723 unread books on my Goodreads want to read list, and some of the books that I own physically are not on that list. So I'm not going to get through all of those this year for sure, but I would like to be more intentional. I would like to reduce the number of books I bring into the house, or at least take more out than I bring in. And in order to do that, I am going to focus on reading at least one book on my backlist a month. And when I have the urge to buy a book, I have agreed that I will not impulsively immediately go and order it on whatever site I would do that. The only time I will possibly pick up an impulse buy is at the little free library. And I may even walk around the block before I decide to take that book out of the library. The lending library that I have access to in my community is fantastic. So if there's a book I'm not sure I want to buy, but I want to read, I certainly could buy it or borrow it from the library and then buy it later. I do think that this year is going to be a little bit more intentional. We're kind of reworking our bookshelves and thinking about what we want to do in that room. So this is a perfect time to read the books that are on those shelves and then decide whether or not I'm going to keep them, or decide whether or not I'm going to keep them before I even pick them up. So that's kind of that plan. So go through the backlist, Goodreads, or my physical shelves. Number 3, I have this poster on this door that you can't see, which I'm going to pop a photo of it in this video. And it is the 100 books bucket list poster. It has a combination, and this was one of my goals last year, and I didn't meet it. Spoiler alert if you're going to watch that video. It has a combination of classic literary fiction and modern literary fiction, and some, I would say, that's just popular contemporary work or popular work for some reason. And some of the books that are on the list I have already read, so like To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, The Help by Catherine Stockett. I read that. I may reread it at some point, but I scratched it off because it's not something I'm going to reread anytime soon. Some of them I've read and I haven't scratched off because I really want to reread them. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh is one, for example. The Wind in the Willows, I think, is on there. Yeah, so this is my dilemma. I have read some of them and haven't scratched them off. Or I have read some of them and have scratched them off because I'm not going to read them again, or I haven't read them at all. And I own a good number of them, so it's not a stretch for me to get one of those at least per quarter, but I'd like to try to get more than one. So I'm going to really arrange my TBR around these goals, which I did not do last year. I wrote the goals down, didn't look at them again. The only list I looked at last year on occasion was the top 9 in 2019, and I'm not creating a top number of any books I want to read this year. So I for certain want to engage in some rereads this year too, which is again the reason why I lowered the number of books I want to read this year. I'll still count them as books read, but I feel like I want to be a little more intentional about rereading some of my favorites. The Outlander series, some of those will be rereads for me, so that's already built in. I'm considering rereading His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman because there is an adaptation now and it has sparked my interest in taking another read through those, at least 3 of his. And then he also has 2 others that came out that I haven't even considered reading yet. They're on my to-read list probably, but I haven't acquired them in any way. I'd like to reread a few classics, particularly Jane Austen, Jane Eyre. Jane Austen is the author. Jane Eyre is the title of a book, if you didn't know. Possibly some other mystery thrillers that have been favorites of mine. So this will be a year of that. I don't have a specific number of books I'd like to reread, which I realized last year my goals were very vague. They weren't measurable and maybe weren't realistic in some cases, but I don't have a specific number of rereads, but I do want to be able to make room for rereads in my life. And I think to be able to do that, I need to create that as an intention or a goal. And I guess for me, these goals are more intentions. I want to get through my ARC list I'd really like to have no ARCs that have not been read by the end of 2020. That is a specific goal. And I have quite a few on NetGalley, so that's going to be a hefty goal. I just don't want people to send me ARCs or to request ARCs. And again, I'm not going to request anymore from Bookish First or NetGalley until I have completed the ones I have already received. So I have a couple this month that I'm getting to. I have another one for next month that comes out in March. And I don't want to keep asking for advanced reader copies or ARCs and not read them, because that also makes me feel a certain way about myself. So that's a goal for sure, to get down the list of ARCs and not to have any open-ended ARCs unless the others are read. I still have my last year's nonfiction list, so I'll continue to move through that and complete that this year. I also still have an open 5-star prediction list from last year, and I am actively working on that as well in this year. So that should be complete by the end of 2020. Some of these are loose ends that I kind of want to wrap up. Another goal is I'm going to be doing a book haul revisit, or I'm going to be looking back at my book hauls from last year. A lot of booktubers do this. I have watched a lot of them do it in different ways. Some people feel really badly about it. Some people don't. Some people unhaul a lot of those. But here's what my process is going to be. I've given this a lot of thought to. I'm going to go back to each one of my videos for the month that I'm in. So I'm about to film January's for you. And I will look at what I hauled in January, and I will pick at least one book out of that list to read in the month of the haul. So I'm not going to do it at the end of that month and look back and then just say, oh, I'm going to read it whenever. I am literally going to read one of those books that I hauled in that month. So I've already chosen the one for this month, but I'm not going to tell you yet because that's a different video. I do want to continue on my goal from last year to read more horror, and I feel like I didn't do as great a job last year as I'd like to this year. So one of the things I'm focusing on is really marrying these goals together. So looking at what is horror on the 100 book bucket list. I don't know that there's a ton of horror on that book, but there's a little bit. Looking at my backlist to see what I may have hauled in that was horror. Looking at my Goodreads list for horror titles. So you get the idea, just really considering what's already in my purview and what I could read, and then looking at what comes out or what there's some buzz about or what other people are enjoying. I do have a few things I got from the Advent book exchange, so I can add those in, incorporate those, get those read. So speaking of the Advent book exchange, I do want to read those books this year and not just haul them and put them in the shelf and forget about them. So I have stacked them in a way that I see them every day. I can think about what I want to add into my TBR. I'm creating my TBRs ahead of time more than I did last year, so really looking ahead and being intentional and giving myself time rather than just kind of grabbing things off the shelf. I mean, I literally was doing that the first of the month. I was saying, oh, this looks good. This looks good. So you can see why I wasn't really very present. I think that just seeing that every day, at least for now, in that place will help me. I thought about getting a book cart, and I might. I found one that I really like. I have a cart behind me. You may have seen one of those Raskog carts from IKEA. It's metal. It holds my creative supplies that I can roll where I need them. And it is really not attractive. I found one in a store one day and I loved it. So I asked my partner if she could build that for me because it was like 120 bucks. And she said, yeah, I think I could. So I think I'm going to see if we can work on that project together. She's got a lot of other things on the easel, so to speak, but I'm going to see if we can maybe, she can help me to learn how to make it. And then that will maybe be where my TBR and my arcs and things like that I need to see every day will live. I don't know where I'll put it, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about that. Really staying abreast of what's unread that I got this last year includes both the book haul revisit and the Advent Book Exchange, which is also a book haul. And the next goal is really to stay more present on Booktube. I am a person who consumes a lot of Booktube. I listen to a lot of videos. I follow a lot of people. I enjoy their videos a lot. And I don't comment. And here's why. I watch them often in my office while I'm doing paperwork, or while I'm putting my makeup on, or while I'm in an office waiting for somebody or a meeting to start. And watching Booktube on the Fire Stick or my phone or the iPad are not conducive to making a comment. I can even occasionally click a like when I watch on the Fire Stick. It's a little bit easier, but it requires some maneuvering that is much easier on a desktop. I don't typically consume Booktube on a desktop. So here's what happens. I will see a video by a booktuber that I love. I will want to comment on that book, or I will want to comment on how much I love their videos or something like that. And then I don't, because I'm in a space where it's not easy. I would like to be more intentional and more engaged with other booktubers and with my audience. And there's a couple of ways I'm going to do that. But one of them is to just be more connected via comments and create a relationship on social media as much as we can do that. And then the other is to really create some buddy reads, or maybe a group read this year, to really engage my viewers, all of you that are watching this, in joining me on a buddy read that we all kind of are interested in. So if you're interested, join. If you're not interested, don't join. But I would like to be more present with the virtual Booktube community. And so in order to do that, I'm going to have to do I think I'd like to comment on that. And I'll do that at 9 o'clock when I get in my office, or I'll do that tonight at 6 o'clock after dinner, or whenever it is that I'm going to do it. Even if it means writing myself a Post-it note and saying, make sure you comment on so-and-so's video, and develop a relationship, and maybe do some collaborations with some other booktube. I had a goal this last year that I didn't write down, but I had a goal of where I wanted to be in terms of subscribers this year, and I didn't meet that goal, and I didn't even really come close to that goal. And I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure why my channel is so slow to grow. It could be because of the number of videos I post a week. It could be because I'm not connecting with others. It could be my content isn't as enjoyable to the mainstream viewers on Booktube. I have no idea. I've discovered over the year that I'm not terribly concerned about that. That's not the reason I came onto Booktube. So I'm not looking to get thousands and thousands and thousands of subscribers and get a monthly check from Booktube or YouTube. I'm not looking for a number. I'm looking for meaningful connections with people, and I think I have those, and I'm building those, and I'd like to do that with other booktubers too. So I'm not sure how that'll happen, but if you're watching this and you have a booktube channel and you have some ideas on things we could collaborate on, put them in the comments, because I'd love to hear them. I think that would be a lovely opportunity for me to be more connected. I have a Booktube journal. My friend got me a journal for Christmas with my initial on it. He knows I journal every day, and so he's often buys me journals. But this is going to be where I kind of track the notes that I have about Booktube and about what content I want. Then I can put it right there. You've maybe noticed, been having some trouble with my microphone. And I'm not sure what's going on with it. It was kind of expensive, so it bothers me, and I haven't had it very long. I usually use it for work, but it's it's here, so I use it for this too when it's convenient. I have discovered that it needs to sort of warm up when I first start, and then if I put my head down in a video and put my head back up, it apparently takes a minute for it to pick back up on my voice, so I'm trying to kind of learn what's going on with it. I did replace the cord. That doesn't seem to have been the issue. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about if I need different lighting this year. Again, we're thinking about arranging the library and doing something different in there. So that might be a whole project that I share with you on Booktube, and that might end up being where I start to film after we complete that project. I'm not sure. I'm not sure when we're going to start. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. I do know we're going to paint the library. Okay, I think this is long enough. That's what I want to do this year. That's what I'm intending to do this year. Of course, I can always change my mind midstream, but I'm pretty happy with the things that I've been thinking about doing and how I want to approach the books this year, all the books that I love, new and old. Thanks for watching. Let me know what your goals are for 2020. I am sure that you're setting a reading goal, but I'd also like to hear if you have a plan for reading the books that are on your shelves that have gone unread, or purging them, or whatever it is you plan to do this year. I'd love to hear about it. Take good care and happy reading. Bye.